Hello friends, complains about being fat and having no money and still orders pizza every other day here, bringing you another Dota 2 video in which we're going to be talking about how to play one of the strongest heroes of patch 7.29. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but that hero is Pudge. Before we get into it, I do want to take a quick look at the actual changes to Pudge in 7.29 and explain exactly why they're so significant, because I realize after so many years of calling the hero bad, it might just look like I've lost my mind and that I'm saying that my favorite hero is OP. It's not like that. These changes are actually significant. So this base armor increase, the reason this is so significant is because, of course, a hero that has low armor gets more value out of a single point in armor than a hero that has high armor. And then on top of that, his attack range was increased from 150 to 175. And the reason that this is significant is because Pudge, I believe, has the third highest base damage in the game. And so sitting there and auto-denying creeps so that the enemy doesn't get them is legitimately good, because every hero in Dota, other than two of them, are not going to be able to outlast hit you. And then, of course, the reduced meat hook cooldown from 21 seconds to 18 seconds in the early level. This was actually like 30 seconds at a certain point, but it's been buffed and buffed and buffed patch after patch, where now we have this very low cooldown on hook at level 1, and this is a 150 damage, pure damage nuke. You can also pull somebody into the trees and get a bunch of right clicks on them, so reducing this cooldown is super significant for the laning phase. But the single most significant change to Pudge in 7.29 is the Aghanim Shard upgrade buff. In the previous patch, once you got Blink Dagger plus Ether Lens plus the Aghanim Shard, this hero genuinely feels like the single greatest save hero in Dota. And it's because he eats somebody, they're gone, they're out of existence. And now, with this 400 cast range, you don't actually need the Ether Lens, you just need a Blink. So the starting build that I normally go on Pudge these days is Orb of Venom, 2 Clarities, Salve, and a set of Tangos. So one thing that I learned, once again, when Pudge was complete garbage, is that his level 1 is extremely good, especially if you have an Orb of Venom. So you always want to group up with your team and do something with this hook, where you pull somebody out of position and you try to get the first blood. So this is really easy to do on this patch, because everybody just 5-mans mid for these mid bounty runes. On the Radiant side, I'll go to this little cliff here. All you want to do is try to hook somebody onto the high ground. There's a really nice spot on the Dire side. You can cut these trees up here, and you can hook somebody over here. So there's some really nice spots. So here we can see what I often do is I'll wait for the rune to spawn, and I'll just hook directly on the rune, especially if my team isn't strong enough to fight, because then, at the very least, I'm either going to get the rune or I'm going to get somebody. But we can see here that this guy tries to walk away, so I go to hook him, pull him up, he hits a 3-man stun. It doesn't matter, because when you pull somebody to the high ground like this, it's so difficult for them to run away from you. There really just isn't a good place for them to go. And this is a really nice thing for Pudge in this patch. What I do is after I TP in and I use one of my Clarities, I go into these trees into the right here. And of course, if you are on the Radiant offlane, you go into these trees on the left. And the reason that you go to the far trees instead of standing in these ones is because I think a lot of the time these pause 5s expect you to be over here as a 4, because of course there are the pull camps over here. So that's usually where the pause 4 is. What I'm just trying to do here is just waiting for an angle. I see the IO. He's easy to hit. He's standing completely still. And we just get a bunch of damage on him here. And so, you know, I'll stand over here and I'll bluff a little bit so that way they're scared. And then what I'll do is I'll walk over to the left side and I'll show them that, okay, you have to be worried about me from every single angle. And once you've established that, usually it's about a minute in, you know, minute 30 seconds in, and you've kind of established the enemy team that they need to be afraid of you. I pull the creep back as soon as humanly possible. I can't stress this enough. Pudge is a hero that really enjoys a 1v1 with a lot of the typical pause 5 supports. Your Crystal Maidens, your Oracles, your Liches. Pudge will murder these heroes. So if you pull the creeps, then what happens is the carry is going to be CSing the wave, and the support will come over and contest you. In this game, these guys are like rank 5 or whatever, so they know this. They're not stupid. So they come over together and they contest me. And still, because of Timbersaw being nearby, and because we got the early level advantage, I can actually contest both of them. Once you have level 3 or 4 on Pudge, and you have boots, basically it hits this point where killing people is way more valuable than trading with people. And so it's about at this time that I look for ways to contribute around the map and get kills while not griefing my offlaner. If you ever feel useless on Pudge, or you've died like this, and you are just making your way back to the lane. A very easy way that you can contribute to the game is TPing mid and filling your mid's bottle. So you can see here that I actually smoked myself because I assume that this guy, he's not an idiot. He's going to have some high ground vision. So I used this smoke and this high ground vision to hit a really easy hook on him. So you can actually see he did have high ground vision. It was just despawning over there. And this sets up my Leshrac for an incredibly easy game. One of the single greatest pieces of advice that I can offer any aspiring Pudge player out there is to walk around with a ward in your inventory. And the reason that I say in your inventory is because it lets you hit that one crucial hook that is incredibly game-changing, and that's everything on this hero. That is literally what makes him OP whenever he is incredibly strong. So you can see here, I'll give you an example of this. It's 7 minutes in, I have a ward in my inventory. Necro has Reaper Scythe, so we're looking to get a kill with it, and I literally placed just a basic lane ward. And this lets me hit a hook on the Drow, who was actually doing some pretty good juking there. That path was a little bit weird. Drow does end up going down, and then a bunch of TPs come in. Tidehunter gets eventually casked by the Witch Doctor, which sets up for my hook. And so now we've gotten 2 kills in front of this objective that we are trying to get, and they would have been able to defend if the Drow didn't die. And that's essentially it. So from that, this makes an infinite amount of space. Often in a game of Dota, there hits a point where either your guys are dominating, and so they want to leave the lane to go farm jungle or to go kill people elsewhere. In a lot of games, you are going to be useless until you're level 6. For instance, in this game, I think against Tusk and Io and Batrider and Ursa, like these heroes all have a lot of mobility. And so having to dismember, I think, is going to result in me getting a lot more kills. And so often on Pudge, it's really good to be that hero that's taking a lane, because if people go and kill you and you're taking that lane, it doesn't really matter. A way that you can bait that, by the way, because I know a lot of people are going to say, well, in my bracket, people don't leave the lane because they're idiots. The way that you bait this is that you stack camps, and then you tell people to go farm the stacks. And if they don't go farm the stacks, you buy Smoke of Deceit on Pudge, and you farm the goddamn stack yourself. But ideally, you'll have your carry go farm stacks, and people are greedy, so generally they will. But here you can see, very simple. I'm sitting in the mid lane, just chilling out, you know, CSing, pushing it in. I tried to push it quickly there because I figured he was farming the camp and that he'd come back quickly, and as soon as Batrider comes back, I can't CS. So I made sure to get those CS while I could. Otherwise, I'd probably static the lane. So a very reasonable question that I think a lot of people have when learning a new hero, and something that I think a lot of content creators, including myself, are guilty of just not really answering, is where the hell do you play past the laning phase? Like, what's the formula for winning with the hero past the laning phase? Everybody talks about laning phase. Where do you actually stand with the hero on the map? What do you actually do to win the game after the point where you've won the lanes? Because obviously there's a lot more to Dota. Obviously there's a way to play a hero. It's not just, hey, run at every single team fight that's happening. So the way that I generally play Pudge, as you can see here, is I try to identify which heroes on my team are actually willing to fight, which heroes on my team have damage and want to run at the enemy team and the enemy towers. And in this game, it is absolutely my Leshrac. He is the main guy that I want to play around. If he's near me, I can absolutely kill anybody that I hook. Anybody that I dismember is going to die. Leshrac is in the mid lane. This is a much more dangerous area, and so the Tusk wraps around on him. This results in me being able to walk up and get an easy dismember on him, which, by the way, I would absolutely recommend. If you don't have to throw hook at somebody, don't do it. The threat of hook often makes people let you walk up and dismember them. I don't know why it says my rod is still on. It definitely isn't. Okay, maybe it was. I'm a dumbass. So you can see we get 2 kills because of that, just simply because we're literally playing around the heroes that want to fight. If I was playing around Drow, that's how I would be playing Pudge incorrectly right now. That's where I would be making a mistake. Okay, so let's say hypothetically your team doesn't want to fight just yet. Let's say somebody's dead. Maybe you're waiting for a particular item, like your troll to get a BKB. Maybe you just don't have great team fight versus the enemy team, or something's on cooldown. Some reason that you don't want to fight is there. Maybe it's even that your team are just a bunch of dumbasses and they're playing really passive, and even though you could fight, they just aren't. There's 100% a solution for that. So what you want to do is you want to just sit in a side lane, and it's usually going to be the enemy team's safe lane, and the reason for that is because you want to play in the most annoying place possible for the enemy team. And generally, if you don't want to fight, then the enemy team does want to fight, and they're stronger, and so they want to push your towers, and the place they least want to go is towards their base, because that's where their towers are, not where your towers are. So you can see here in this clip, what I do is I walk up and I push out the wave with Rot. So if you make sure not to get your Tranquil Boots broken, Pudge is actually quite good at doing this safely. And with the Blink Dagger, it's really easy for me to hide myself in these trees. As of 7.29, there are a ludicrous amount of juke paths that you can get into with either a Quelling Blade, a Blink Dagger, Force Staff, Spider Leg, something like that. And so this split pushing, side lane pushing, annoying bullshit is significantly better. So even aside from Pudge, I would actually recommend for you guys to buy a Quelling Blade, even if you're like a Crystal Maiden or a Lich, because you can sit in trees and make a metric shitload of space by doing this, because it is impossible to catch somebody in side lanes now. I'm split pushing so close to the enemy base. I blink in, I TP out. He assumes, I think, that I went in this juke path over to the left, which would be the juke path from previous patches, but instead I went into the juke area over here behind the tower, which I know exists in 7.29. And now this guy has no Ravage, and this is terrible for him. So he did cancel my TP, which is something. But the thing is, this is not even good for them, because I just go out and I do the exact same thing again. And there are so many paths over here that even if they wanted to find me, this is going to be almost impossible for them. Look at them looking for me. What a massive, pathetic waste of time this is for them. So there are a few ways of playing team fights. There are two main ways, but then you can kind of mix the two into like a pseudo third way. So in some games, you have heroes like Warlock, like Faceless Void, these heroes that are just one and done. These heroes that just want to jump your team with one big thing, and if you avoid that, then the enemy team often loses the fight. If you fight around the cooldowns, they can't win. And Pudge, because of this new Dismember ability and the Shard, of course, is one of the single greatest saving, disengaging heroes of all time. So in this particular game that I'm going to show you, basically what I'm doing is playing like an Oracle. I'm just sitting in the back, I'm letting my team siege, I'm letting them do the initiation, I'm not even fishing that much for hooks. Obviously, sometimes I'll still do it, but really not that much. We're comfortable sieging, so I don't need to force anything. Instead, I'm just kind of staying in the area so that way I can wait for an opportunity to either dismember somebody or save my team. And here you can see they pop the rock and as well as the silence on my lone druid, and he's stuck in human form, which is obviously not so good. And so I eat him and I pull him out. This is good for us. This means that we can go push out all the lanes, and then we can engage in a team fight, and in the next fight, they're not going to have rock because of that. So the second way of playing team fights is just the old Pudge way of playing team fights, which is essentially just waiting for setup and, most importantly, hooking somebody and then dismembering them in front of your damage dealers. I can't stress how important that is. I don't think you need to do anything else on Pudge when you're trying to play him aggressively like this. You literally just need to dismember somebody on top of your damage dealers. If you walk away from your team in a fight, you're going to probably die, and you're probably not going to kill anybody. Anyway, that's it for this video. Shoutouts to these guys for subscribing to the channel and leaving a comment below. I selected them totally at random, and they now have some Arcanas. So if that sounds dank to you, make sure to hit that sub button and leave a comment. Don't just leave a comment. Lots of people left comments in the last video, and they were not subbed. It is only for people that are subscribed, and the only reason I have you leave a comment is because I have no other way of contacting you. Thanks a lot for that, YouTube, by the way. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate you, and I hope to see you in another video.